Whoo! It's ThursdAGE.
Like it is almost every week.
That's right. A very special ThursdAGE at that.
I'm glad we got to this one before next week when we won't have a ThursdAGE.
That's right. That too is a very special ThursdAGE. But holy smokes, friends. Yeah, we'll get into it. Right now we are hanging out. Kind of our pre-ThursdAGE hangout. As we like to, see people as they enter, as you join the stream, say hey.
It's the calm before the storm.
Right?
I realized that whatever weird position I had pushed my camera and computer into, they are stuck there now for the next hour.
Well, there we go. What do you think about that intro? It's kind of boring.
It felt a little bit like an introduction to a 1990s PBS kids science fiction show.
Sure. Right. Yeah, I'll buy that. Hey, folks, it is ThursdAGE. I am your disembodied buddy, Troy, because I will only appear via voice, but that's not actually true. I'm doing an actual play next week, 21st or 27th, I mean, with Abraxas Precipice, and I will be having some fun as a corporate shill in a what do you call it? One shot that's kind of horror, but it's also a horror fundraiser. So there you go. And let's see, do it again. Afternoon, everyone. Run the intro back. Evening, all. What's up, Facebook peeps? Says Gary. Brian's here. It's a big day, friends. It's a big day. I gotta tell you, a day. How many years in the making?
4
years in the making. Not for any one particular reason, but a confluence of events. And ultimately, when things are ready, they're ready. Okay, but it just turned out that it indeed was time, and I should probably just release you from your modesty shield, and we should do maybe this. Where are you at? Where's Owen?
I don't know.
Owen, you're gone.
I promise I didn't put a black sheet over the camera.
Let's see. Ta-da!
There we go. All right,
there you go.
There we go. One more. Just a second. Here we go.
Solidarity.
Okay, we're good.
The Age Creators Alliance has launched. That means people can do things like write their own adventures, write some. I've seen some really great reference material. I've seen some great ideas percolating out there in the world. Just you name it, and it's out there. And we've got look at everybody here. This is so great. We got one big, strong, handsome Owen, says Gary. We sure do. Big and strong, handsome. That is the truth. And let's see. Charlotte says, "Ooh, I know. Like it's like looking into the face of God."
So I no, it's not. So should we read out the descriptions of the products that are currently available in Mr. Movie Phone voice?
I am so glad you said or brought that up because I'd love that. And let's here's what we'll do. We're just gonna we'll freeze for a second, and then yeah, and then we'll let you go. So I'm not talking over you. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3.
So there are 3 products I currently see up at the ThursdAGE Alliance. The first is Flight of the Wayfarer. So everyone get ready. Prepare for launch. Get ready to launch an epic campaign with Flight of the Wayfarer. A city primed for war. Dangerous new stunts, plus your very own airship. The teeming metropolis of Alduin is about to be treated to the next great advance in magical technology. The launch of the Wayfarer, the world's very first airship, will secure Alduin's status as the most powerful city in all the land, an outcome that some of their neighbors would rather see fail. Can the heroes wade through a battle of industrial espionage with the future of 2 nations at stake? An adventure perfect for a group of 1st through 3rd level heroes ready for adventure on a grand scale. How was that?
That was great, but did that just appear?
Yeah, that popped up since we started.
That is so funny. I love it. So yeah, that's wow. Yeah, it definitely did.
Then,
we got a couple more.
Then next, Changing Season, a fantasy age adventure for 3 to 6 heroes at levels 1 through 3. A mini adventure that features 3 fantasy versions of a body slasher snatch xenomorph.
I love it. A body snatcher slash. Yeah, it does sound very, very cool.
All right,
The
one
first
more.
one, yeah. Okay, go for it.
If I butcher your fantasy name that you've put on the cover of your book, I'm very sorry.
This is Reds.
This is Reds. Vitaoth Adventures #1, The North Wall Patrol. Begin your adventures in the world of Vitaoth, conflux of the 12 elements. You are an emissary of convergence, and today is your first day on the job. You are to take a customary patrol route simply called the North Wall Patrol. Think of what peace means to you and take your first steps into the world of elemental fantasy action.
You can go south, but you'll only need north. I love it. Ren, you popped in just at the right time. Ren says, oh my.
Yep.
Fantastic news. I got to tell you, this has been a labor of love, and we finally crossed the threshold, and we look forward to seeing and talking about and celebrating things that are cooking. And I want to add a little layer to the Age Creators Alliance discussion as it relates to ThursdAGE, because while we do spend a lot of time talking about Fantasy Age, it is meant for all the ages. And we do want to encourage people to come and talk to us about, we can't offer you legal, advice, business advice, but we can talk about process, and we can talk about a bunch of stuff. Go ahead.
It's an all-age program.
That's right. It is an all-age program. And Gary has an idea for fast age rule set. Nice. Okay. All right. Interesting. I like that. Oh, here we go. It's pronounced Vitaoth. Vitaoth.
Okay.
Nice. Okay, well, I love this question. Age Creators Alliance?
Ha!
I love it. Well,
where have you been over the past 4 years of us constantly saying we would soon have something to talk about?
Sweet summer child, yeah.
So let's talk about it. Age Creators Alliance is live now. It is a program by which creators and fans can create products using the age rule system, specifically Fantasy Age, Modern Age. And you can put out adventures, and there are templates to help you, and you can put them up for sale. And the venue, which is One Bookshelf, Drive Through RPG, they get a cut, and because it's our rule system, Green Renine gets a cut, and then the rest of it goes to you. Or if you want to, there are tools where you can assign the royalties amongst different people, right? So if you've got one artist and one editor and one writer, and you think all 3 of you did 1/3 of the work, you can divide the the royalties up, so they'll automatically go to your individual accounts. Which I got to say, as someone who's done royalties for a small publishing company for years, it is really nice not to, at the end of every month, have to go, okay, line 27, 15 sales, this much money, 15% is, let me get my calculator, so I owe $2.15 to this person, and that's time consuming, folks, I promise, especially when you've got like 400 products.
And it's cash money. It's cash money in
Yeah.
your pocket.
Well, in your account, which you can then send to your pocket.
That's right, in your digital
There's
pocket.
a send to pocket button.
There is. Yeah.
So there are a bunch of templates and stuff there already. But for me, the most exciting thing right now is that there are already 3 adventures: Flight of the Wayfarer, Changing Seasons, and the North Wall Patrol available right now. So if and they're all $3 or $4 as PDFs. And if you have been wanting to get more adventures for Fantasy Age in this case, although there will be other age things, I'm sure, you can now. We've got a whole venue for people to get more stuff. And with all of these things, of course, there are rules and regulations of what you can and can't do. And I'm sure people will get a few things wrong when we get out of the gate, but we can handle that politely and nicely. I do recommend everyone read the rules on what logo you're supposed to have on the front cover, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. Yeah. Trade dress and all that good stuff, and what you can and can't do. And here's the deal: while we can't, you're a business in this context. You're kind of doing your own thing, and so you got to make sure you're doing right by the government and Uncle Sam and et cetera, et cetera. And David, why don't you link them to that drive through RPG? But you bring up a very, very good suggestion, and that is there a page that we can link to on the Green Rona website. So we're actually working on some of that stuff behind the scenes right now, and so anticipate that you will see that. But in the interim, share the link that I sent just a moment ago to the Drive Through RPG site, and that will take you there. The rules are there, the resources are there, the assets, and then when it comes time to talk about like how do you build something compelling, or is there a missing component? It's just not vibing with you, then bring it to ThursdAGE and we'll talk about it. We've got lots of people who are working on some Fantasy Age stuff, but we definitely want to see modern age stuff.
Oh
yeah. So if you're sitting on an idea, Gary, and you want to maybe do something, Gary, specific to modern age, write your own kind of deal, Gary, then do that. I encourage you. No one person in particular, Gary, but think about it. I think it'd be fun. But yeah, I gotta, all kind of teasing and joking aside, I've got to tell you, I am absolutely. It's like a weight has been lifted, and I'm just really looking forward to seeing where people take it.
And currently there are adventures, but you could also do NPCs, you could do monsters, you could do setting things, if you wanted to put together a tavern or something. Those are all appropriate and useful things to put together, right? If one of the current products says, hey, you get an airship. So that's a great example of the sort of thing that you can. Turns out players like airships, is what I have learned over.
Yeah. Now, is an airship just
years of gaming?
Is it a blimp?
These headphones are going dead.
Uh-oh.
All right, I can hear you.
Okay, great. I was going to say, are airships just a blimp?
Just a blimp. So, right. You've got the question of whether it's going to be a blimp or a dirigible or a hot air balloon or a flying warship, right?
Sure.
There's that particular product has a cover that sort of indicates that perhaps the ship in that case is very specifically sort of a sailing ship looking thing that happens to have big kite-like wings sticking out of the side and a helicopter blade on top.
If you would like, you can if you want to share your screen. If you feel, also you don't have to.
You know what? I literally can't. I'd violate an NDA if I shared my screen right now.
I bet everybody wishes they knew it was on your screen.
Yeah, I got tabs and notes, and I realize.
Oh yeah, no worries.
Show up, but what I can do is drop a link, and then I think maybe. I can put it in private chat anyway.
Yeah, you can do that. Giving away all our trade secrets.
So, but
In
this is
private chat, we just talk badly about everybody. No, we don't really. Wow, this is
we really don't.
great.
Yeah, no, that's nice. So this is the start of something, right? There are 3 products there now. But let's talk about why 3 products is a great place to start. If there were 200 products on there right now, no one releasing anything new could possibly catch anyone's attention. So
Right.
we will. I am excited about pointing people to this. In fact, I'm trying to put the links up on Twitter and Facebook right now. And Twitter's working, and Facebook, as far as I can tell, there it is. All right, Facebook worked. So those are options that are currently in place. But unlike physical products, you don't have to print them and warehouse them and ship them. It's electronic. So those 3 products can now sell for the next decade, 20 years, however long we manage to stay on this planet. There we go. There's the airship for Flight of the Wayfarer. And presumably, since there are only 3, Troy will do equal opportunity and show you the covers of all of them.
Yeah.
But it's just super exciting for us, and it's exciting at a number of levels. I currently do not have time to do my own Creators Alliance products, but my plan is to get ahead on stuff and maybe release some of my own stuff, right? There are some resources out there, and again, I am not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. Always read the contracts, read the rules, make sure you understand it yourself. This is a business venture for you. So if you are not sure what a contract means, get a lawyer.
Yeah.
A consult to go over a contract is not that expensive, and it can take a little money to make some money. But for example, there's a guy named Dyson Logos who does wonderful black and white line art cartography, who has a whole set of maps that are commercially available maps. All he requires you do is credit him, and you can use his maps for your products. And he's got dungeons and castles and forests and trees done in a very sort of early role-playing fantasy game style. And you can take one of those and go, okay, this is a small dungeon. It's got 7 rooms in it. I have 7 ideas. I will describe what are in the 7 rooms. There are templates for laying it out. I'll put it together, export to PDF. And if the first one's super rough, that's okay. You can, charge less for it and get the experience and get better at this stuff. It's also possible to get together with people, right? If one of you is really good at art, one of you is really good at photography, if your gaming group happens to have talented people who have all the skills necessary to make a project, Brian F. Irving says Dyson does some outstanding work. He does. I'm a huge fan of what Dyson does on stuff, and it's incredibly generous of him to have been letting people use these maps
It really is.
for commercial products. And there are scores, if not hundreds of them. There are at the very least scores. So that's an opportunity. If you run a dungeon and all your friends are like, that's brilliant, you should write that up and put it out. You've now got a way to do that for for some of the age systems, for modern age and fantasy age.
Now, here's the deal. What we are very much looking at the one that will not make it into this program will be the Expanse. Just not going to happen. We'll of course talk about it, but that's a license that it's on loan, and so we want to take very good care of that and follow the rules. But we're talking about Blue Rose, and we're talking about how that might work out, but the things that happen now will really determine that for us. And so,
totally.
It's very rare when Owen and I get together that, I'm usually here just to be a jackass, but I want to take a moment to, and Owen happens to be very skilled in this area as well. But, as you are putting your stuff together, it's going to be inevitable. I promise you, you will think that you have gotten every typo, and it will be a decade later and someone will go, hey, you spelled your name wrong. And sometimes that feedback is going to come in a less than charitable tone and in a less than opportune time. I want to encourage folks to really pay attention to what's happening after you launch, after you put your piece out there. Listen to folks, and take your lumps. People are just hardwired to come out swinging when they've caught someone doing something wrong. That is just the nature of human beings. You got to shake that off. You gotta get some thicker skin. You gotta,
Well,
go ahead.
First of all, if you are getting feedback, feedback is like panning for gold, right?
Yeah.
There's a big cold river. There's a lot of useless rocks, and it's a fair amount of work to sift through to get the little tiny nuggets that will actually make things better.
That's right. And these rocks are dense. They're just dense.
They are. I used to tell people that reading through all the comments and the feedback was just part of the gig. And I don't do that anymore because I sit in a place of relatively safe privilege. And even I have had people come after me as a result of my going on and being active in forums and stuff, and have had to have people, like Troy, help the abuse stop. So if you're not up for reading the feedback, don't.
That's right.
I do think it's useful if you can, and you can always go a more controlled route, right? Most of us have a few people we know online, a few friends, so when you can say, hey, I will send you a free copy of this product if you will tell me if anything sticks out to you as a glaring error.
Yeah.
Or you can even say, I'd like you to edit this. I don't have any budget, but I'm willing to give you, a quarter of the money it makes. So we're all in this together. And if it's a huge hit, we all benefit. And if it's a huge flop, we all suffer. So there are options.
Well, you don't really suffer. I mean, it's not like they extract. Well, I'm sorry, you owe us money now.
Yeah, Troy, if you put out a product that you've put your heart and love and blood and tears into,
fair
and 5
enough.
people buy it, I promise you there's some suffering. It's just
fair enough.
All
Yes,
heavy.
In that context, yes, quite.
Yeah, and someone already picked up all 3, so we are delighted to have served as a advertising source and to put adventures in people's hands. I was just talking to Chris Pramus earlier today about our plans to make sure that we've got more adventure support once the core rulebook comes out next year, and we absolutely have plans in place for that. But part of that is to do this so that people that have wonderful, fun ideas that we don't have time for, or bandwidth, or resources, or in some cases maybe we think would be a bad or dumb idea, it'll be out there and people can put it together and you can buy it and play through it. I do have to go back and ask, Troy, did you pick misspell your name by accident, or are you aware of the most embarrassing moment of the first Green Ronin Summit I ever went to in person?
Oh, you know what? I literally pulled that out of the...
Pulled it out of the air. All right, folks.
Well, no, I didn't. Not quite the air, but it is not an uncommon thing.
So I'm going to tell a story on myself. 2014, I went to my first in-person Green Ronin Summit in Seattle, and I wanted to pass out business cards because, Steve Kenson is there and Joe Carricker is there, Jack Norton.
These are some heavy hitters.
These are some heavy hitters in the industry. So if they've got use for something else, I want to pass it out. So I've got my Rogue Genius Game publisher and freelancer business card. And so I'm passing it out to people. And Joe, bless his heart, takes it, looks at it, and says, "Oh, I didn't know you only had one E in your last name." I was like, "What?" So these are the business cards I've been using for 4 years at this point. I have been passing out this business card, which carefully says STPHENS as my last name. I have been misspelling my name on my professional contact for 4 years. And it took Joe Carricker, bless his heart, to look me in the eye and say, so is this wrong, or is every published credit ever of yours wrong? Because one of these two things has happened. And so I was horrendously embarrassed that here are these big heavy hitters, these people I look up to, the people that have, I worked for Joe in the D20 era, right? I did writing for him. Steve's who I always wanted to be when I grow up as far as game design and writing goes. And I showed my full face of idiocy. So I was horrendously embarrassed, but Green Ronin did not can me. So the important thing here is that mistakes will happen. One of the great things about doing things electronically as a PDF is if you print it, publish it, you put it out there, and the very first piece of feedback you get is, hey, is this supposed to start with number 17 and go forward from there? You're like, no, you can go back, change it, update it, send a notice to everyone that bought it. Hey, here's the new version.
Right.
So errata, misspellings, expansions, whatever you
Yeah.
want. It's a simple system to fix and put through.
So I had 3 pieces of advice for folks. My background is running people through tests of product and then also assuaging concerns both on the development side and on the consumer side. But my first piece of advice is don't over explain. If you've done something, if there's something's awry, you're not obligated to, even though you may feel compelled to. Don't try to over justify literally and oh wow, okay, I'll fix it and then fix it. And that is literally the best process to go into this overwrought explanation of I was really tired or this wasn't, somebody else did that. Honestly, nobody cares. They really don't. They care. I mean, your friends and the folks that your compatriots, they care. And you hope they care if there's some kind of situation of duress, you want to help kind of avoid that. But the consumer, what they really need is to trust you. And they get there when you say, good find, really good find. Even if they're a little snotty about it, you say, good catch. You fix it, you amend it, you do the thing, you follow through on that promise, even if you're just feeling like if I have to upload this, if I have to look one more time at this PDF, I'm gonna claw my eyeballs out. Do it anyway. And then what you'll find is that as you build that rapport with people, they're gonna know that they can come to you and not be rude. That people kind of go from that 0 to 10 because they don't have any point of reference. But when they start to make that relationship with you and they start to connect, you can relax a little. They can relax a little, and then you start to see things like people who then they start to clamor for the work that you've done, or they want to talk more to you, or they want to connect because they've got a relationship and they trust you. And then once you have that trust, it is it's hard to get there, but once you got it, you also get later sympathy, which you will need, if you continue to go through this, the deadlines will be blown. And, the other thing too, and, it's maybe more akin to, larger development projects, but, there are times when something's late and you can't tell anybody why. You just can't tell anybody. And that may be less common in this case, but I think, I think it might actually behoove you to speak to noted working on it, that kind of stuff. If it's not something you can turn around right away, and we've all got lives and things happen, but yeah, so that's my first piece of advice. My second piece of advice is develop your skill of editing out invective as you're reading feedback. And if it's something you just don't want to get into, I get it. If someone's being egregiously bad to you in across multiple forums, you come talk to Troy. No, you will, like you don't have to suffer abuse. That's just period. So make sure that you're availing yourself of the systems and the people around you to help you maneuver through that so that you are, uh, you know, let's disabuse the abusers of their opportunities to abuse. And you don't have to suffer that stuff at all. But feedback is, it's a like Owen said, it's like panning for gold. And sometimes you can train your stones to like transmogrify. What do they call that? What do you when you turn something into gold? What is it? There's like an alchemy, the
Transmutation.
transmutation. That's it. You can transmute a lump of coal into a diamond or some gold or what have you by listening. And when people start to get that relationship and they realize that you actually are paying attention, it changes the dynamic in a good way. And then the third piece of advice is, what's the third piece? Do you have a good piece of advice?
Do I have a good piece of advice?
Yeah, yeah.
Have you ever heard me not have advice? So when we're talking about just purchase 2 of them, great.
Nice. Thanks, Casey.
When we're talking about putting out products, if you are a pro and you have a process, or even if you are a experienced amateur and you have a process, feel free to look at possibly changing your process because of things we suggest, but don't feel like just because we say something, you need to do it. If you are putting your toes in this pool the first time, the water will frequently be cold. That's okay. I used to say, if you put out your very first product by yourself and it's perfect and polished and no one can find anything wrong with it and you sell 100 copies, that means that you didn't sell 50 copies of an earlier product you could have put out when you weren't as polished and made that money. So if there are no mistakes in the first thing you do, you have spent too much time polishing it, right? These things are games. If you misspell a word, no one is going to lose their house. They can't take your birthday away.
That's
It's
right.
not that important. It can be very important to creators, right? This can be our job. And in that regard, it's not just a game. For the end user, they are paying for a luxury item so that they can run around and pretend to be elves with their friends. And if there's something that is not... I've already noticed a rather hilarious typo. I must correct later.
I also want to real quick. I just want to shout out. David was talking about giving us a signal boost. That's great. Thank you for that. Absolutely. Truly appreciated.
So don't sweat the small stuff. Is in many ways
that's right.
Is my advice. I don't carefully edit most of my blog posts at owenkcstevens.com because I'm trying to write them, get them out there, and then get off to the work that has, bigger deadlines and other people involved. And that means it's not at all unusual for me to put out a blog post and for someone to say, you repeated the first sentence 3 times and you misspelled hello. And I'll just say, thanks, fixed. And again, it's electronic format. I just go and fix it.
And what it is too, Owen, it's like that economy of efforts. Like you want to, of course, people want to make the best thing possible. And I imagine if it's your first thing, you're gonna really pour over it. But realize as well that, you have invested a certain amount of hours, and your time is valuable. And that sort of measuring of the time spent versus, the value of the product, it's something that you need to contend with as you continue to do this work.
100%. And no game product is perfect. I several years ago, I was looking at the 6th printing, each with errata and updates, of a core rulebook of a major game company, and discovered not a typo, not a simple transcription of words, an entire section of rules that should not exist. It was paragraphs long, was in there, and no one had noticed over a decade of this rulebook being out. That just happens. It's okay. What you're trying to do is put out things that are clear enough that people can use them to have fun. If you've hit that standard, you're golden, and everything else after that is trying to look a little more polished. That's all it is. If you haven't hit that standard, you go back in and you hit the standard. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
And I know when I first started writing game products, my output was, get ready for this, 1,000 words a month.
Oh.
I averaged about 35 words a day. And that's not because I wrote 35 words and I stopped, because I wrote 200 words and then threw them out because those weren't good enough. And then I did 100 words and then I had to put it aside. And then I changed my outline. And then I went back to the first 200 words, which I had thrown out because at the time I would actually delete stuff and I would go rooting through the files and I'd find what I deleted. And I would pick up 15 words from it that I really liked because I wasn't at the time smart enough to hold on to work I thought was no good that I might need later. And back and forth, I would sweat over whether I had used too many sentences that were 5 words long in a row, right? So I'm sitting there counting, the cadence in this is off. It's not poetic. I need shorter, and then much longer. See, that flows better. I didn't need to do that stuff. I mean, that things can be important, and awareness of it is fine. But you get better at that by doing it and looking back on it later. There's a relatively famous story in the art sculpting world of a teacher that has doing clay pottery. So you throw a clay pot. And he divided his class into 2 groups. And he said, okay, for group A, you will be graded based on how many hundreds of pounds of pottery you have completed. I don't care how good it is. I don't care what it looks like. If you have gone through the whole process, we weigh it, and at this scale, you make this much. At this scale, you make this much. The other group, your entire grade will be based on a single piece of pottery you are done with at the end of the semester. And the first group just went in. They don't care. Hey, made a plate. It's lopsided. Fire it. Biscuit. Doesn't matter. So lumpy, spinned, whatever. Hey, I'll try something. Oh, that didn't work. All I have are 2 pieces of clay shoved together with a little hole in the middle. That's fine. We'll go put it on the scale. The other group tended to carefully measure and weigh and try and just do it on the wheel and pinch the top, and then maybe, and they were slavering of this one piece. And at the end, the art of the group that were just weighing how much they'd worked, those pots were better because they had done it over and over and over and over, and they had built up the skill. You're going to have some wonky, lopsided pots that dribble when you try and pour out of them.
Right.
Lord knows I do. There's literally been, there was a thread, I don't know if it still exists anymore, but it was on a message board that was literally the trial of Owen Casey Stevens, where people took one of my products and ripped it apart. Here's proof that he doesn't know how the game works. Here's a bad theme. Here the writing is terrible. Here he says this thing is obviously the best option, and here's why it's a terrible option. There are 5 or 6 pages of the trial of Owen Casey Stevens, and I read all of it. And I started feeling very, very, very bad about myself. But by the time I was done, I was like, okay, some of these complaints are dumb. And my book sold. So
right. So I can, So I don't have to own that. Yeah.
But I did go and you know, if they said, hey, this he didn't think about this rules connection, and I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that. That's a really good point. Those lessons you generally only have to learn once. Right.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. And if you genuinely disagree with people who are just very sort of hardcore about they want it to look this way or you should do this thing, then be aware that nobody wins when that comes to a loggerheads like that. Nobody, so you can respectfully disagree, but I'm seeing the initial blossoms of the efforts with the Age Creators Alliance. Ren's got a piece in there. You talked about it earlier, and then Dwayne asks the question, and I hope that Ren's still here. Question to Ren: do you have plans for a series of Vitaeoth? Shoot, I'm sorry, Ren. Adventures Beyond the North Wall Patrol, and we will await. But I think that's great. I mean, that just shows that there is, interest and wanting to kind of see how Ren's world unfolds. And Dwayne, if we,
Ren was smart enough to put number 1 on that adventure, which immediately makes people say, as we've seen here, "Ooh, is there a number 2?" And that's half your marketing right there. So.
Yeah.
And that's another thing you can do, right? If you're not sure what's a good idea, what's going to be popular, what will people like, look at what's popular. Do a little market research. I am not above telling you to buy other people's books, making them money, to figure out which books you should make to make you money.
That's right. And and also be aware that communication to the consumer requires you to remove yourself from your place of vaunted knowledge, because people, there's a lot going on in the space. There are a lot of people. I'm sure that there are plenty of number 1s and plenty more number 2s, if you know what I'm saying. But the idea being that there's just a lot going on there. And so a person oftentimes will ask questions that aren't necessarily the most calibrated to the, and to just remember, that people are going to, I'll tell you, I've done this myself, but I've got, if there's a particular fandom or a product or something that I really love, when it comes time for me to like engage, I don't know. I can't remember, any other day I could give you 5 things that I'm interested in finding out. So just remember that you also step into a different role, a different dynamic that you should probably take some time to get used to. You're a star. So Dragon Age is not included one of those licensed products that's not part of that. But are we Yeah, we're talking about the other. We're gonna sit down and have a chat about some of the other age. But first, what we're gonna let the bouquet sort of get air. We're gonna let fantasy age and modern age spend some time in the spotlight. And I almost feel like that modern age, whomever pops out that first modern age one, we will check the heck out of it and share.
Oh yeah, absolutely we will.
Yeah,
I mean,
you will.
and this is it. There used to be one fairly obvious way to get into tabletop role-playing game writing, and that is that you would pitch articles to print magazines. And
Right.
obviously, people know about Dungeon and Dragon, but also Pyramid, and there was Shadis, and there was White Dwarf. There was one issue of Troll. Point is, there were a lot of game magazines at one time, and that time happens to be when I was trying to break into the industry. And so I sent off pitches, and I was sending them with self-addressed stamped envelope, etc. Yeah, Fantasy Age and Modern Age now, and Blue Rose is waiting in the wings, and we'll see when and what we do with it.
That's right. Blue Rose is our baby, so we got to make.
And so that was a place where I could do little snippets of things and learn individual pieces and work with someone else's rule set. So you would work with someone else's rule set, you would put together an NPC class for Dragon Magazine, whatever. And that was a way to get published and get some experience. And there are still some magazines out there, and there are a lot more websites and places that do stuff. But it's just not as ubiquitous as it used to be. However, there is now this opportunity. You can now say, all I have is an idea for one monster. I've got one monster. That's all I've got. I want to write it up. You can do one monster, one page, sell it for 50 cents, put it out there, and you have started. If you do that and you are popular and you are doing well and you are mastering the mechanics, and then people who want to publish other books using these systems are looking for new freelancers, we're not going to be carefully surveying stuff, but if someone has a big popular product, if they've got a following, if we see that they understand the rules, that is a big step forward to being able to say, hey, I want to write for you all. And we say, what have you done? Well, I have 42 things on the Age Creators Alliance, most of which have 4 and 5-star reviews. That is a lot easier for us to go check on and look at the quality of your work than if you say, I play your game every weekend. Well, we're thrilled, we're glad, but we can't be there to see that. So that is much harder for us to judge what that means in terms of your actual skills.
Hey, look at this. Nice, Brian. Brian says 2 modern age products written for the Alliance. Now try to get the layout done as soon as possible. Absolutely. Yeah, layout, if that's not your jam, it can be arduous.
Yeah, layout's a thing.
Yeah, that's a talent for sure. For sure.
Layout's a skill. I am fortunate enough to be in a place where I don't have to do my own layout for anything except online. I do layout for things like my blog posts and my Patreon and such.
You do.
I said duty.
Yeah, duty. Yeah, and that, but that, what's interesting about this is that we really are beginning and there are other communities already engaged that know this sort of stuff, that are working on other, they're engaged on other products, but that doesn't mean that they won't jump over to help out. I mean, this is a community of people with skills that run the gamut of all of the various disciplines that it takes to create these things. And my advice to you, if you want to do kind of a one-person show, I get that. Oh boy, do I get that. But I'll tell you, when you get a good group together, you get that collaborative juice going, and you get that sort of, you can depend on people, and they kind of get you, and the ideas come out, and you just feel like you're 10 times smarter because you have these other people that are engaged. It's pretty great. It is a lot of work to get there, but it's worth it for sure.
I agree. Absolutely.
Let's see. Our fresh out the box buddies. Yeah, layout has been hitting these well. Yeah, interesting. I wonder, that is one discipline that we've talked to editors before on Past Times Monday. I wonder if we should talk to a layout person.
If only one of the owners of the company had vast experience and award-winning layout.
Right. We should invite. I think we're talking about Halbert.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would love to get Hal on camera. By the way, charming, handsome dude, and has got. Yeah, you know what? We're gonna harass Hal and get him on. Maybe we'll do the next ThursdAGE, huh?
I mean, I don't care. I won't be here. It's my birthday.
Oh no, the next one after that one, because we are taking
Oh,
the
sure.
yeah. We're taking the next this coming the
The 28th, we're taking off.
28th, the 28th.
Yeah, I happen to know the date because that's why we're taking it off.
That's right. It's your birthday.
Yep.
So if people want to send you birthday greetings, should they just pepper them at you on social media or?
I mean, I've got an email address, owen.stevens@gmail.com, which people are welcome to use if they are here listening to it and bother to write it down. That's good enough for me. But I got a Facebook. It is very common for people to want to say hi to me on my birthday on Facebook.
Yeah.
That is owen.k.c.stevens, or you can hunt me down on Twitter, which is Owen_Stevens. So yeah, absolutely. Feel free.
The other thing as well is if you would like to join in solidarity, we can kind of collect all of the media and maybe create a lengthier sort of a cinematic experience, if you will. Reach out to me at let's play at greenronin.com. It would be my pleasure to help knit that stuff together. So yeah,
cool.
Lots of options. Yeah. Okay. So I just want to real quick. I want to go back and I knew it was coming. I shouldn't be surprised, but just to see that pop up, the Flight of the Wayfarer, which is gorgeous, by the way. I showed that cover, but it is it's really, really well done. This is I'm not certain if I know Richard Molina Weber, but I would like to. Great. Yeah. It kind of talks about the artist. The artist is somebody. That's the other thing I like about Drive Through RPG and their setup. Aside from the fact that Meredith is just otherworldly, just an evolution of human kindness, made into a form that we can look upon without going blind. Wonderful, wonderful human. Can't say enough good things. But that community is hustling over there. There's a lot of people, a lot of resources, and so we'll grab Hal for the layout stuff, and I think that we'll also just connect and see what there's some other folks who might share some advice and some methodologies for how to approach people. I mean, that's kind of a process into itself, for sure.
It totally is.
Yeah. So, Jason says, hoping to take a trip to Noman. Is that where you live, Owen?
Norman. Yeah.
Norman. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
To see my bother. Yeah. I have one of those too. I call him a bother. Yeah, absolutely. And Jason, next summer, just wander around Norman, just like day and night until you see Owen. Usually full moon, cornfields.
Yeah. If you're gonna come to Norman, dude, let me know, because you're not gonna just find me. First of all, it's a decent sized town, but also secondly, I don't leave the house much anymore. So let me know you're coming.
It's one of those things, isn't it?
Take you to Ray's Barbecue or a Brahms or something.
Nice, very, very nice. So now, Owen, I remember you had said, I think that you might have even spoke to this earlier, and I blanked on it. But you said that you were going to go through the process of submitting. You have no time for that, but I want to. I want to ask you, like, so I want to do something. I think, but I think I want to. I don't know what it is yet. And I've learned so much just in our time. We've spent some significant time having great conversation about, sort of the bones of making very
an hour a week. It adds up.
It really does. It's like a therapy moment, or sort of 1 hour a week for you, I'm certain. But does this program lend itself well to more of along the lines of I want to say accessories, or speak to like how far that can Oh, this is interesting. Real quick, I'm going to just show off. David Shepard says, new creators might want to know that drive-throughs pay what you want can be used as a try before you buy. You can tell Age fans to buy your stuff for free and then buy it again if they like it. And you know what? They will buy it again if they like it.
Yeah, you can totally do that. So I think that what the market is currently starving for
This is my
adventure
question
and
as
setting
well.
content.
Yeah, right here. Sorry, I wouldn't mean to interrupt, but
Yeah.
fresh out the box.
No, it's good.
Yeah.
So go read the rules, right? Because you're only allowed to put in so much new rules content, because we don't want someone to say, hey, here is a book with 500 new stunts. We don't think that's good for the game environment.
Yeah.
Whereas if someone says, here's 500 new adventures, people will just pick whatever adventure they want, and then when they're done with it, they're done with it. So yeah, I do actively think that the things that are most wanted are adventures, and then after that, monsters, because monsters are always popular. And then if you have done an adventure and a monster, and those adventures and monsters are connected by a through line that suggests a setting, to me, that is the best way to introduce a setting, right? If you look at, for example, the world of Calarian, which with Paizo did, or for that matter, Freeport, which Green Renine did, those both started with an adventure, right? Here's the Freeport adventure. It's a trilogy of adventures, Death in Freeport. They had some adventures that they were doing in a monthly format over at Paizo. And in both cases, they did some adventures and they name dropped some things and they set up a sum of a world. And then later, there was sufficient demand to say, okay, we should do a book that outlines Freeport. We should outline all of Galarian. And then, we can dive down into however much one of that you want to deeply, right? Do we want to do, here's taverns, whatever. But I recommend starting with stuff that a GM can grab and slap on a table. And I specifically recommend a GM because for a player to use a new player option, both the player and the GM have to think that's a good idea. So you've got two people that have to buy into it. Whether or not they buy it, they have to accept the concept to be able to use it. And you are putting out third-party PDF stuff. You're doing it in a format that Green Renine has approved. You've got some resources, but it's still not published by Green Renine. If you put out an adventure or a monster, the only person you have to sell that on is the GM, and he will then take that monster or the adventure, and then he will then run the players through it. And if they have a really good time with it or think it's really cool, they might then ask, hey, where'd you get that? Yeah, I look at the titles of everything from Green Renine, and he might say, oh, well, that's David Shepard over on Age Creators Alliance. So I very much recommend starting with those monsters, adventures, maybe then have those describe and you lean into a setting over time. NPCs can be great. Single settings that people can use for, say, elements of an adventure, right? So if you've got, hey, I happen to be good at sketching a tavern map. So I've got a tavern map and I've got some interesting NPCs and I've got some ideas of how someone could use that in their campaign. That's sort of a set piece that, all fantasy adventures start in a tavern. If you've got a bridge that has a troll king under it, and it's the troll king's bridge, and you want to get from this kingdom to that kingdom, you have to cross the troll king's bridge, and I've got a map of the bridge, and I've got the stats to the background of the troll king and why no one's killed him yet. All of that is in my opinion, a good, fruitful area to start. And then we'll see what develops. We'll see what emergent behavior comes out.
Yeah.
It might turn out that monsters are 10 times more popular than adventures. It might turn out that NPCs are the most popular thing. That will be determined by the consumers and the community and the market.
And that ebbs and flows for sure.
We've got a question. What's the guideline for creating a mini setting with Age Creators Alliance? All of those guidelines are available through the drive-through link. You can go and see what the rules are and what you're supposed to be able to do and what resources are available. And we've got 5 minutes left, so I don't want to try to cover in 5 minutes.
What?
Yeah, we got 5 minutes left. We're almost out of time.
What sorcery? I can't believe it. I feel like we're just.
Is there anything that Fantasy Age creators should be aware of in advance of the new core rulebook? Yes, but it shouldn't matter to you. The new core rulebook is designed to be compatible with all
Thank
things
you
that are
for
compatible with the
thanks
basic
for letting
rulebook.
us know. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, no, seriously, this is exciting. I wish
Yeah.
I'd had time to put a day one product up, because then I would have sold 4 copies of it today. But where was I?
Yes, but
Yes, but uh, it should be compatible with anything you do, right? There's going to be a new class, the Envoy, which is the negotiator, talk to things, social engagement, lead people around. Um, if Fantasy Age is going to use Freeport as a default setting, does that mean Freeport is included in the Age Creators Alliance? No, and no, at least at the moment. So we are going to use Breakwater Bay as the default starting point for Fantasy Age. That's the setting that's going to be in the book. That's what we're going to focus our first adventure on. Breakwater Bay is part of a series of Mystic Oceans and sea routes from which you can get to Freeport. People that are familiar with Freeport know that they had that same sort of sail through the coils. Well, it's the same cosmology with different names. We're going to, since we are carefully saying, hey, Freeport is in the setting, you can get there from here, you can be included, we're thematically similar, but it's not what we're starting with, because I don't think Freeport is the best choice for introducing a new game system and new characters for the very first time, right? We wanted to create something that worked best for getting new people into the game. If you're already a huge Freeport fan, you can pick up the giant Pathfinder hardback book and just convert things as you go.
I've got a couple.
But
Oh, go for it. Go for it. Sorry.
But if people start saying, hey, can I put things in Freeport, especially once we do have some Freeport Fantasy Age products out, that would be a conversation I'd be willing to take up the chain and ask, are we okay with saying this is set in Freeport and I'm going to put it in this town and this tavern and whatever?
I think what I'm going to do for my first sort of foray into this is I'm going to develop a monster, and it's going to be called the Yes But. And Owen, I might work with you on it as well to kind of, because
Yeah, you might.
everybody knows my art skills are on point, and so I'm not going to require a lot of help.
Is
in
that what we're
department.
calling them?
That's right. That is exactly right. I just looked it up in the dictionary, and on point is the appropriate nomenclature.
Jason Sunday wrote,
That's right.
I picked up the Modern Age Mastery Guide yesterday. There are some new stunt options that increase damage. Are they an indication of what might be in the new core book? The problem that they exist to address is a problem that we addressed in the new core book. We didn't necessarily do it all the same way, because Fantasy Age has a different base of how we expect you to get abilities and make choices and build your characters than Modern Age does. But it is my expectation that as Fantasy Age core characters gain levels, they will be doing more damage on average than the same character concept built with the basic rulebook would, which is specifically to address the fact that at higher levels, fights seem to take forever to grind through all the hit points of a foe, and we want that process to be faster. But we also want to maintain full compatibility, so we didn't want to do something like cut the hit points of everything in half, because then you would have to do that anytime you picked up a book for Fantasy Age from before this moment, and you wouldn't have to for products after this moment, and that would just not be as convenient.
Gotcha. Well, I am really, truly excited to see the emergent behavior around creative endeavors like this, especially with the depth and breadth of people who are engaged, is always amazing to watch, always inspiring. And I want to thank everybody in the chat for digging in, for asking such phenomenal questions. Congratulations to the folks in the chat that are. That have submitted stuff, and that we are here for your creative conundrums, and while we are frankly not interested, but also unable to provide tax advice and all that kind of jazz, the creative endeavor part of this, and as you kind of try to figure out how to knit those pieces together, and as we're here for that, for sure. Absolutely. Would love to hear your thoughts as well. And what I really enjoy is the arrangement that we've got. We know that we have people that come and hang out with us, every Thursday, that are experts in their own right. And so giving you the space to share, and, I could see it would be very, very reasonable to presume that somebody who had submitted something, and, that we'll want to bring them on to ThursdAGE. I
Yeah,
can
no, I
totally see that.
once the Creators Alliance has been going for a little while, that is one of the things I want to do. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So keep that in mind. The sky's the limit except for where it can't be, and and we're here to ground you. Owen, thank you so much. Again, I'm just so elated that we were able to get this thing out the door and it's there, and I'm looking forward to seeing where people take it. And in the interim, if we will be off next Thursday because Owen's having a birthday. He's having a birthday
But we will be
party.
back on November 4th.
Everybody should have gotten the invite. If you, just kidding. But Owen, happy pre-birthday, and
Thank you.
enjoy your time off. And then in the interim, if folks have questions, you want to know a little bit more about what's going on, or something's missing, or just want to share an idea, send a note to Let's Play at greenronin.com. We are always monitoring it, and we have been known to make full shows out of simple questions.
We sure have.
That's one of our talents, is to complicate simple things, and I love it. As Jason Waltman says, tip your GM friends. We've given you an extra 1 minute of love. But Owen, thank you as well. Enjoy your week, and we will see you not next, but the next Thursday after. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, folks.